Y'all. Reference books. Roots and Refuge, which is a great channel, is having a share your favorite references thing. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. And had a couple of friends that were like, oh, you can do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I had the children help bring in a bunch of books that I've got a bunch. And she was like, don't just share things that you haven't read. And I'm like, these are not only books that I have read, but some of these were books that my grandfather, I'm a fifth generation homesteader, so that my grandfather also suggested. So, if you're interested in natural health, natural healing, and potentially homesteading or even just gardening, stay tuned. I'm Donita from prairie-trail.com, and I talk about homesteading, homeschooling, homemaking, and 10 hat topics from a biblical perspective. So we are going to talk from everything from, herbs and how to use them in your daily life to Bigfoot and where'd he come from. Okay. I'm out here in the Oklahoma Panhandle, and we have a lot of fun here. So I without further ado, I want to share the very oldest that I have. I think this is the oldest, but the Foxfire books. My grandfather, and this is a box set. I probably should have turned off the Foxfire books. This is a box set. This is very old. These are originals. These were a university did a study, sent a bunch of kids out into the Ozarks to learn traditional skills from the hillbillies. Okay, that's my version of the description of this. You can get these on Amazon, and there are a lot more of them than this. Okay, he had these three and then a fourth, and then I keep coming up with more of them as I see them in secondhand stores and stuff. Excellent. They've got like black and white pictures of people doing their thing, making the soap, rendering the fat off the hog, just building the cabins, doing all of it. Okay, you're going to get all of that in here. This was required reading for our homeschool, so that's how important I think these are. Okay, the next one I can't find because we use this book all the time. It's not one my grandfather suggested, but I don't know what his degree was, honestly, but he was definitely a botanist, and he understood things. He could tell you what every single plant was and what it was good for, whether it was good for the cows, the goats, the sheep, whatever, or if it was good for us. And he was just good at it. I have a black thumb, so I need help in this area in a very big way. This is the book that I have around here somewhere. It gets used constantly by me and the children. And I've about worn it out. I've added pages in whenever I do research. I will print out, information on stuff, and I've added pages into mine. This is the older version. It says Encyclopedia of Medicinal Plants on this one. And this is Andrew. I don't know how to say that, so I'm not going to try. But he's got a new one out now. And yeah, this one says medicinal plants as well. Okay. And Natural Care Handbook, Illustrated Reference Guide. I use it constantly. So it tells you how to make how to use each one of the plants and what cautions there are with it. So it tells you if it's best in a tincture, a tea, or in pill form or whatever, and it goes through the information of how to prepare it, how to harvest it, things like that. So I mean, I'm a visual person, so the colors being able to see everything in colors, and it shows the different parts of the plants and stuff. That is very helpful to me because, like I said, I've got a black thumb, and yeah, I need the help, all the help I can get. In that area, these are two that I've also used a lot. Smart Medicine. Come on, come on, come on. Hang for healthier living. This is by Janet Zand, Alan Spring, and James LaVale. Anyway, it tells you whenever there's a sickness or something, it will tell you what the conventional treatment is, traditional, conventional treatment, plus it'll give you holistic options like herbs, diet, supplements, and homeopathics. And then there is a smart medicine for a healthier child. Come on. And again, I have used these very, very consistently. So if you're interested in alternative health and just knowing what your options are, those are good. Another one that one of the old timers out here gave me, we called him Big John, and he was a big, very special part of our family, is Emily Thacker's collected works. Again, I hope you can see because I'm having a terrible time with this. Isn't that awful? Anyway, Emily Thacker's collected works. She had several books, and this is a collection of several of them. Home Remedies from the Old South, the Vinegar Book, the Garlic Book, and Emily's Book of Health Without Drugs. So you can look up these individual books. You can look up Emily Thacker, Thacker, and I will put links in the description of the video to these to help. This is an excellent book and talks about just these basic things. You would not believe garlic and apple cider vinegar are too amazing. They've just got so many amazing properties. So this has been a very helpful book. Again, not just requested or suggested by myself, but suggested by one of the old timers in our area. Oh, where do I start now? This is one that everybody, I hope this isn't backwards. Mrs. Greenthumbs. This is the sweetest book. There we go. The sweetest book. It's really funny. It's fun to read. It's more about flower gardening, but the concepts still apply for any gardening. And it's a delight to read. And so if you're new to gardening and you're intimidated, this is just it's a fun to read book, and it's going to give you some ideas to help get you started. If you're homeschooling and you've got children, gardening, kids, this is an older one. I'm sure you'll have to find it used. I'll try to find it and put a link in the description if I can. It's kind of a board book. It's not really a board book, but the pages are really thick, like cardstock. It's very well laid out with lots of pictures. And that's a good one for if you're homeschooling, gardening with your children or grandchildren, to get this one and go through it. That was a great one. I make my own book. So I have a notebook that I keep track of how I do my gardening each year. And I haven't been really good at it lately because the drought just made it very discouraging. But I would put in here my notes. My grandfather kept a notebook of extensive notes of everything that he did and he planted, and when he planted it and what was going on and what the weather was like and all that kind of stuff. And it's ended up being invaluable, and I wish I had it, but start your own, do that. A canning and preserving book, of course, is huge. This one is Canning and Preserving Without Sugar, which means a lot to me because I'm severe hypoglycemic. This one's by Norma M. McRae, RD. So it's a registered dietitian, and yeah, this has been super helpful to me. Oh, as we're talking about diet, this is the one I've used the most as far as traditional cooking. Set for Life. Like I said, I'll put a link. And it's by Jane P. Merrill and Karen M. Sunderland. And it's got good traditional basic recipes. Whenever I was learning how, because I was not taught how to do a lot of traditional cooking. Whenever I was learning how to make bread, this is specifically made for like young moms who want to do traditional healthy cooking, but you're expecting another baby or something like that. Very, very helpful. So you can tell I've got all these bookmarks in it. I mean, this is well used, and I highlight and I write and things and I make notes and all that good stuff. So yeah, very well used. It's got like the basic recipes that you need, and then you can add the options and change things as you like. So that's a huge one. The Maker's Diet. I don't go by this consistently, but anytime that I feel like my diet needs a reset, I go back to this one. It gives you a good plan step by step to get your health back on track. So that's a good one that I've found that a lot of people don't realize. Again, I've got tons of notes and highlighting and stuff like that. So whenever I go back to it, I know exactly where I need to go and where I need to start to do a reset. The Fanny Farmer cookbook. Now, this edition is the one I suggest. I don't suggest any particular, any specific Fanny Farmer, but this one. And I've been using this since I was a child. It was my mother's, let's see. And I took it with me when I left because there are some recipes that are in this one that are not in the other Fanny Farmers, like Granny's Grunt. Okay, Granny's Grunt is an excellent recipe I like to make every year in my cast iron Dutch oven. And if you don't know what it is, then you need this cookbook and you need to figure it out. It's great. So anyway, this one, the last copyright on this one was 1965 by Dexter Perkins Corp. So that's the one, and I've got the traditional duct tape holding it together, and again, all kinds of notes and bookmarks and stuff. So you can tell I'm not suggesting things to you that I have not used. Now, as far as gardening is concerned, I'm lazy whenever, and I'm like a black thumb, right? Betty Crocker's Kitchen Gardens. Again, I've got all these markers in it and stuff. Okay, nice small book that I like. And then there was, this one saved my life. The Square Foot Gardening by Mel Bartholomew. Maybe it's best to hold them up that way. Yeah, being able to put things into smaller spaces and get more out of it with less weeding and stuff means huge deal to me. So that's one of my favorites. Let's see. And the No Work Garden Book. This one, I mean, you can tell it's older, you know. It's what is your 1971? So it's a year older than me, but I haven't gone to it as much. You can tell it's in a little bit better shape than the other ones, but I like it. And then let's see. I just recently did a questionnaire asking people, what are your favorite gardening books? And the one that really came up was kept coming up was Rodale. And I'm like, Rodale. And I do have a Rodale book. Getting the most from your garden. And I've done a little bit in this. It's not, like I said, it's not as much. It does have pictures, so that's cool. But that was one that was suggested, not just this one specifically, but several different Rodale books. And this happened to be the ones that I have. They were suggested by people who garden, who I asked. So that was like the biggest suggestion. And then, the big one. Okay, are you guys ready for this? The reason I like books like this, I like reference books. Again, I'm visual. I like seeing visually what it is, what it looks like, you know, what's going on. You catch me with color pictures and I like that. So this is the, let's see, Brooklyn Botanic Garden, America's Garden book. I mean, so this is touting that it is the whole thing, right? And these, of course, are older books, but I mean, it's got beautiful pictures in it. It talks about lawns and stuff like that, but this isn't one that you're going to read from cover to cover, but it's going to be one that it's got an excellent index in the back of it, that if you're wanting to look up something specific from your area, a particular tree or something, then or flower or whatever it is, then you can dig up the reference. It's got a wonderful plant hardiness map of the whole, good grief, North America. Probably should have done this with my phone. It might have made more sense. Anyway, it's got lovely photographs in it. And I mean, everything's in here, I think. Yeah, it would just be a reference, right? It's not going to be like a how-to or anything like that, but just to help you understand the plants in your area and, you know, yeah, and what you want to know about those things, and whether or not something's going to work in your area very well if you're wanting to plant like a mimosa tree or something like that. So anyway, that is the basics. I started out with like the most, what I consider the most important. I could have brought in, I mean, whenever you're talking about homesteading and stuff, there's so much more to homesteading than just gardening and alternative health. There's sewing, crocheting, knitting. There's just so much. There's homemaking, housekeeping. You know, you can get into carpentry and all the different things. And so if this is something that you like, let me know. And I will go through the different categories of books that I've got and that I've used with our family, our children, and that I reference on a regular basis for those kinds of things as well. So, but Roots and Refuge was basically talking about gardening type books. I had to throw some alternative health books in there too, because it is talking about plants. So, you know, you're going to be taking those things out of your garden and you're going to be cooking with them, right? And we can end up with 100,000 cookbooks and this and that, but what are you actually going to use? You know what I'm saying? And my mother-in-law, she collected cookbooks. She had a ton of cookbooks. And I found that I just pick up these few, you know. The Fanny Farmer and the Set for Life are the ones that I use the most. You know, and so that's just kind of where I go. Why, you know, and especially if you're trying to budget buying books, and some of these books aren't cheap, especially whenever you get into like the Foxfire set. You know, it's going to add up really quick. So it's better to kind of narrow it down and say, okay, what are my goals here? Because like where we're at, we've got 50 acres. And that sounds like a lot, but we're talking Oklahoma. So that's like 5 acres in Tennessee. Okay, maybe. It's just, it takes a lot more land out here to do things. at the same time, I'm not going to have a 50-acre garden. I'm not even going to have a 5-acre garden. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to have a garden even the size of a football field. I can't physically keep up with that, right? So that's where the smaller garden, the square foot garden, give me the lazy gardener books, and those are the ones I'm going to use most. And then the other ones are going to be references whenever I'm having an issue with a particular crop, and of course, don't put aside the idea that you should be asking the locals. Ask the old timers in your area, ask the people that have been having gardens for a long time. Ask them, talk to them, ask questions. A lot of times the little old ladies who have the beautiful backyards will be happy to give you starts of some of their flowers and things that they've got going on. And a lot of flowers are edible. So, don't put flowers aside. Plus they can, help with the bees and the butterflies. And sometimes they help, deter pests and stuff like that. So, talk to them, make friends with the older people in your community, get to know them, talk to them about this stuff and learn from them, because that's where you're going to get the best knowledge, is that hands-on stuff that they have, right? So the books are wonderful. We do need the books, but find somebody who's actually put this stuff into practice and learn from them as well. So anyway, I'm going to let that be. Thank you so much, Jess from Roots and Refuge, for doing this, because this was a really great idea. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, do more. This was fun.